Welcome to Velocity, the Vista Chamber podcast. I'm your host, Chamber CEO Rachel Beld, and it's my privilege to interview the movers, shakers, and change makers impacting our Vista community and beyond. Today is extra sweet because Don Hein, owner and manager of Little Cakes Cupcake Kitchen, is here today. Don comes from a family full of self-starters and business owners, including several bakeries, and was inspired to pursue his true passion, baking delicious homemade goods with mouth-watering flavor concoctions like pancakes and bacon, for example. Don lives in Vista with his wife Becky and their 2 children and their 2 dogs who have inspired cupcake flavors. Don and Becky fulfilled their lifelong dream of starting a family-run boutique cupcake bakery in 2010 and have since expanded into several Gelson's Market locations. Little Cakes Cupcake Kitchen was also a 2-time winner on the popular hit TV show Cupcake Wars. Yay! So welcome, Don. Glad to have you here.
Very glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. So first thing I have to ask you is, where did the name Little Cakes come from?
So actually, when we got everything started, when legend has it, me walking down the streets of Vista and stumbling into the Vista Village Business Association office at the time, and then being directed to Kevin and you, who the legend has it that you, days before I showed up, had said, you know what Vista needs is like a dessert shop, like a cupcake shop.
That is actually true. Very true. I did say that.
And so when that whole process started, we were going to be the Yellow Leaf San Diego.
Okay.
My brother and his partner had opened the Yellow Leaf in Seattle.
Okay.
And the idea was to do a second one. And so we got that process started, and then it was like, families working together, let's not do that.
Right.
I was already kind of knee deep in doing the project, so I had to come up with a name. I had always just kind of thought something very simple, classic, nothing too catchy. I remember writing a lot of different names. And then we had it, or initially it was, I liked the idea of just saying Little Cakes and a picture of a cupcake, just kind of implying just something simple and basic. And then we kind of felt like that wasn't enough to let people know. We liked the kitchen aspect, and then the cupcake, we wanted that in the title. So the initial name was Little Cakes Cupcake Kitchen, and that's still officially what Vista is called. But we've kind of shortened it and kind of moved on, and a lot of the new marketing is Little Cakes Kitchen.
Okay.
Just implying too that we're carrying other products, but
right.
But that's kind of, yeah.
You have a lot more than cupcakes.
Right now we do. Yes.
Right. Okay.
Right now we do. Yes. Okay.
So you started to answer this a little bit before I even asked it, but why Vista? Why did you end up in Vista? Other than roaming the streets, looking for a place for a bakery, why did you roam the streets of Vista, I guess?
Well, living in Vista, I roam the streets of Vista because I live here. I always loved the downtown and still love the downtown. I remember coming over here when I was dating my wife, and she was living, I think it was in Oceanside, and we would come to Curbside and just kind of looking and being like, wow, look, this is like a quaint little downtown. This is so cool. So I like the idea of being here. We were living in Vista at the time also. So obviously something closer for a commute. Where I was working before was Valencia. So anything was closer. But yeah, I honestly, when we were looking at locations, like we actually were considering a spot in Carlsbad, and I think I don't know if it was the Chamber of Commerce, but some Carlsbad office. Honestly, I was looking I'm like, where's the business association? And Carlsbad people were like, what are you talking about? Because I had been spoiled already by Vista. And it's not that other cities are necessarily bad. It's just that Vista is it's always been going like above and beyond. Like even just walking into that business association, they were like, who we need to get you in touch with? It's, Kevin Ham with redevelopment and doing this and that. And then he's, I remember talking with you back then, and Kevin literally putting me in his car and just driving around and being like, there's that space or there's this space, he might've shown me this. No, this was a post office at the time.
Yeah, it was.
But But yeah, I mean, when we found the space, I had always liked that little area right by the movie theater. I've always been a big movie fan. So like the idea of being right there. But yeah, I think also just, I liked the idea of, contributing to the vitality of the town I live in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could say property value, but even just saying, I'd love to see this place just keep going. And I was like, well, then let me put my money where my mouth is.
Yeah. I love that.
And it's been, I got to say, no matter where we go, no matter what we do, it's always like coming home to Vista.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not literally because I live here, but the shop, the people that come in, the people that want to, give more and more.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, hey, what kind of discount can you give me? Hey, what coupons can you offer? It's always just been like, we love you guys and we just want to support you.
Mm-hmm.
From the beginning. I mean, one of my first customers was someone who kind of came bursting into the shop and was like, thank you for being here. I just remember, I'm like, oh, you're welcome. Who are you? And they were like,
that's great.
I just love that you're here. And I think they bought something, but it just,
I love it.
That's kind of been the feeling. And yeah, it's like, no matter where we go, I have these moments where I keep kind of circling back and just coming back to Vista.
Mm-hmm.
And I, growing up in the suburbs of Chicago and then living in like LA and all the different LA cities that feel like LA cities, this is kind of the one city to me that feels in Southern California that feels like a suburban town in all the good ways.
Right.
It just feels that way.
I agree. I think this is a great place. And I think it does have kind of that hometown, small town feel.
Yeah.
Even though we're right here in this mega plex of cities and
yeah. I mean, just being surrounded by so many different areas that are more tightly packed with, different developments and stuff. But also just kind of feeling like you can spread out a little bit. Everyone's still kind of walking around with their dogs, and there's also just like a laid back feel.
Mm-hmm.
I always think about the 508 Tavern
mm-hmm.
and how seeing people in this little tiny tavern, you'll see, a couple on a date night from maybe, Carlsbad's very affluent area. And then some guys that just did a painting gig and, some other people and like nobody's questioning anything.
Right.
It's just literally like, yeah, this is where we go and this is where we hang out. And it feels that way. And it's great. It's amazing. And you don't get that a lot of other places.
Yeah. Cool. That's great. So what is the best thing about the work that you do? What are your favorite things about the work that you do?
I mean, I love being in the kitchen. I loved when I kind of started thinking about doing this, I really like the idea of, every day, especially when we started, it was like every day you'd come in and you had no inventory. You just had all these like bits and pieces and you put it together and sell it like that day. And that was always really cool. I love baking. I love making people happy. I always say like, it's so much better than like, it's not like we're at the dentist's office, everyone that's coming in. If someone comes in a bad mood, I'm kind of like, you do know you walked into a cupcake shop, So I like that aspect. I like being a part of people's celebrations. I'm sorry, you asked for the best and I'm giving you like 20 things. But I really like, and where I've ended up being, kind of like as a business owner is finding different staff and what they're good at and then trying to foster that and giving them an opportunity to grow. We've always just kind of promoted from within. And it wasn't something that I necessarily sat and thought out, but when I've tried, like bringing in an outside manager, it never really seems to work. And so, it's kind of cool just watching these people grow and then being like, well, I don't know if I can do it. And I'm like, you can do it. Because that's what someone did for me at one point. I remember saying like, you want me to do this? Like, I don't know how to do this. And this guy was like, you can do it. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I like saying that to other people.
That's great.
And then watching them grow into it and do great things.
That's great. So speaking of your employees, I remember a few years back, I saw something you posted on social media about, we we want to provide benefits to our employees and we want to pay a fair wage. And I really thought that, especially at that time, that was a really courageous and bold thing to say, hey, we're a small business owner and we're aware of overhead and we're mindful of cost, but our people are important to us and we want to put them first. And so I wondered if you had any comments about that or kind of what led you to make that statement.
Yeah, I mean, from the beginning, knowing I was going to be a business owner, but also knowing I was going to be, a husband, hopefully eventually a father, I always said, to do a good work-life balance, I would need to be able to walk away and have someone else in control.
Mm-hmm.
And so to have someone that's like that, I mean, first of all, it's just trying to treat people fairly, but also it's kind of like if you're going to retain someone that you can hand things over to and they're going to run things, you need to give them a job that, they're going to want to stick around with. And it's like, in order to maintain that, then it's like organically you need to offer a little more.
Mm-hmm.
You need to, compete with other places that these people could go. So I think it really did kind of come down to getting something for myself as an employee, but also just saying, well, I definitely want to keep this person. And then it was like, well, I wanted to keep that one too and keep that one too. And then having these staff members that were like, well, I've never had that before. And I kind of always had it before. So I'm like, well, it's good. Like it's good to have that. Like we should get that for you.
You're right.
And yeah, I mean, people would say, how do you afford it? And I'm like, well, I don't know how you can afford not to. So I kind of always put that first. And I always felt like with Vista, we were trying to lay a foundation for more. I didn't know what or where or how. And it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to build an empire or something, but I did always feel like, I want to be here for a long time and have a business that has the opportunity to expand. And it's kind of like the only way to lay a good foundation, I think, is to get good people and give them a reason to want to be there.
Yeah.
So,
well, and speaking of wanting more and growing and expanding, Little Cakes Cupcake Kitchen or Little Cakes Kitchen started on Main Street in Vista, and now you've expanded into several Gelson's locations. So, a lot of folks who are listening to this podcast are hopefully other business owners who have ideas and want to grow. So what advice do you have for them about making connections and figuring out what's the right next step?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of really good pieces of advice I got. One of them was from John Randall, owner of Curbside.
Okay.
That's his last name, right? Randall?
Yeah.
Okay. So John, I remember saying to me like, oh, you're going to open the cupcake down there. I'm like, yeah. He said, well, he's like, just give to people, especially when you first open up. He's like, just give. He's like, don't worry about what'll come back because it will. And in ways you never would have thought. That was great advice. And that is advice I would give. And then another person from my previous job, the CFO of my previous job said, do your homework. Which, is very, very good advice. And if you think you did enough, do a little more just to make sure. And no matter how much homework you do, you're still going to have to adjust and pivot, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's one of the big things that I've found is just going out there and, it's something like the Chamber of Commerce is a really good example of something where, you may have somebody kind of whispering in your ear, what's your return on investment on that? You're going to go to these events, you're going to do these different things. I was involved with, the VVBA Business Association for a long time, devoting a lot of time to it. And it was kind of like, well, what's the ROI there? And I think you're talking about culture and you're talking about I think the more you go into those things and don't think about an ROI, but think about, well, what can I give? What can I contribute?
Right.
Like really not thinking about, well, what's my bottom line? How am I going to, really just getting out there and having that mindset. I think it comes across and then people are enthusiastic. I've kind of always been a believer that like, if people get the vibe that you're out for yourself, then they're like, okay, like good luck. But I'm not going to help you because you're just kind of out for yourself. But as soon as you kind of give the, like, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? Then all of a sudden they're going to be like, well, what can I do for you? Whether they want to or not, people just naturally want to reciprocate. And then you've got everyone on your side. So it's kind of like, what do? You put yourself first and then only worry about yourself. And then you got nobody on your side, or you could have like literally like everybody. So I mean, yeah, I don't know. Getting involved, not looking in the confines of whatever your business is, but saying what's happening outside. How am I contributing to, the culture around you?
I'm so glad you said that. One, because it's a great answer, but also it gives me an opportunity to tell you that that's exactly what the Vista Chamber is about supporting other people. We actually talk about in our member orientation, when new members join us, we talk about the networking versus net weaving. And, networking is kind of looking out for yourself. You meet someone, how can that person help me? How can that person support me? What can I get from that person? And net weaving is meeting someone and thinking, how can I help that person? How can I lift that person up? Who do I know that might be their customer? Who do I know? How can I support that person? And when we all support each other in that way, and we're looking outward at others and how we can lift them up, then we create this web that nobody falls through. And I'm just so glad you mentioned that, because it gives me a chance to share about our philosophy about net weaving, and actually give a quick shout out that the third Wednesday of the month, we have a Coffee and Conversations group that's focused on net weaving. And we host that at Cat and Craft Cafe down in South Vista, the third Wednesday of the month at 8 for our members to just support each other and to connect in that way. So maybe sometime you can carve out an hour and come and join us. We'd love to have you there.
I feel like I've been so involved before, and then I've been so busy, but I'm excited about kind of being able to, again, kind of circle back to Vista.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of the right way of looking at it. And yeah, if you go to like a networking event and you see someone that's just kind of like hunting, you are always like, but then you'll just be talking with someone. And yeah, I mean, some of the best connections I've made and some of the hugest leaps forward that I've made have all been not sitting down and saying, oh, well, how can I, do this, but also just kind of sharing a problem and then someone being like, let me try and find a solution for you.
Right. That's great. So you've had, you've been on Cupcake Wars, Little Cakes in Vista's doing great. You've expanded into Gelson's. Have you had any things where maybe you made decisions that weren't the right decision, or things that you've had to say, oh, just kidding, let's U-turn here? Because I think that's valuable for other business owners to hear that it's not sunshine and roses every single day.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We are definitely not sunshine and roses every day. No, I mean, there's been a lot. It's a long, winding road. Always. I feel like it's just always that way. We had expanded and opened up a second location in Carlsbad. And I mean, we were a week into our build out and my general contractor was hospitalized, and I became a general contractor. And then, that location just wasn't working out for us. But a customer who came in was someone who knew about Gelson's and knew about their situation and helped us get inside of Gelson's. So if we weren't there to do that, we never would have gotten over here. And it turned out one of the Gelson's was right down the road from that location. So, I mean, you can't play the what if game. But at the same time, another piece of advice someone gave me was, hang on tightly, but let go lightly. If you're fighting to try and make something work, great. But once you're done, like, let it go and move on to the next, thing. And yeah, I mean, we've definitely seen a lot of opportunities and had a lot of opportunities and been in different places and been in different situations. And when we find out it's not a good fit, we say, okay, that was great. What did we learn? Let's pivot, and I mean, right now between, 2020 and now 21, the Great Resignation, we've just been hit hard just trying to figure out how to do something where we're expanded so much. So, we are looking at kind of, getting ourselves back down to like fundamentals. We're starting, we've been trying to do more and more wholesaling, and we actually have like the ability to pull ourselves back to focus on that. And just seeing where we can go and what we can do with that has kind of been amazing. So that's it. I think I've always been, looking around for different opportunities and excited to go do opportunities. You just have to make sure that it's working. Yeah, and take stock and then say, okay, if it's not, where can we go?
Sure. That's great. So, so we talked about the best part of your work. What is hard about it? I mean, you talked about some of the struggles, but like just day to day, like what are some things that you think, gosh, this is really hard?
Yeah. I mean, you never know what every day is going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my wife will ask, you know, she'll be like, well, do you have time to do this? And I'm like, you know, I have nothing to do and I have everything to do. You know, if everybody decides to walk away, I have to do everything. But maybe everyone will show up today and nothing will break. And I got some time. So that's, I mean, the hard part is kind of, you know, always knowing that if everyone else walks away or, you know, or enough people walk away, like you need to literally step in and just, you know, make the cupcakes or do the different things.
Wear all the hats.
Yeah, wear all the hats. Yeah, I think it's important, anyone that wants to be an entrepreneur, is to know as many facets as you can, like every little nuance, you know, from the initial start of whatever it is you do all the way down to accounting and you know, electricity and plumbing. I mean, the more you know, the more you'll be able to help solve problems. And yeah, just kind of carrying the burden of, you know, making sure that you're making payroll, you know, and yeah, I mean, just kind of shouldering all of whatever it is you're taking on. So making sure that you kind of have enough help is always good.
That's good. And I like what you said about, you know, as a business owner, you're wearing all the hats. You have to know if your bookkeeper walks away, you need to know how to do your books. I mean, that's super important. You need to know how to fix something if it breaks. You got to plunge a toilet if you have to plunge a toilet. Like you just have to do all the things if you need to. It's great to have people, but you have to be nimble to be able to do that. So
I want to say it was one of the hottest days I think it was 2020, and our air conditioner stopped working.
Oh
Vista.
gosh.
And I mean, you know, their staff is calling me and they're like, it's almost 80 degrees in here. And I'm calling around and it's 2020. So like nobody's picking up. And they're like, I can be there in a month. So I was literally up on the roof trying to figure out how to get a commercial air conditioner to work and thinking like, you know, living the dream. But I was thinking about it and I was like, you know, it's true. If you're going to be a business owner, an entrepreneur, it's like, that's what you're going to do sometimes.
Wow. Cool story. Okay. So speaking of 2020, how did COVID impact your business?
Well, I mean, it was a good time to be in a grocery store. So that helped. Although just trying to figure that out, and figure out the needs of customers and where you were going to get everything. It was amazing to see that, you know, plunging into this urgent need and supply and demand suddenly going huge, while, you know, in Vista, it was a, you know, we were by the movie theaters and everything was just shut down. So, I mean, luckily, I think also all of this led to people saying, you know what, like I need a little treat. I need something, because it did turn around pretty quick. And we found that people were, you know, there was still a need and a want for it. But I mean, ultimately just, you know, financially, actually 2020 was okay. It was actually last year, and all the staffing shortages and having been in so many different places, and the idea that, you know, I was saying it's, you know, it was like getting out there and saying, well, as soon as it rains, everything's going to be fine, you know, but you can't make it rain. You know, you couldn't get people to come and show up and apply for jobs. And it was just, I think that was one of the most difficult things, because it stretched everyone so thin. And there were people kind of taking advantage of things, but also just the people that you have had for a long time and who were trusted were just shouldering so much more. And it was just rough to watch. And you're just trying to help and do what you can. That's kind of been the biggest impact on us, is, you know, just trying to stretch ourselves so much. I say it's like we got a twin sheet and a king size bed, and you know, no matter what, something's not getting covered, you know, so we reduced hours and this and that. But then you see, like, you know, Starbucks is closed 3 days out of the week, and you're like, okay, well, it's not just me.
Right.
And I will say that, like, we had a rough year. 2018 was a very rough year for us for a lot of different reasons. But it was just us, you know, so meanwhile, you know, other people are doing great and this and that is happening. So I will say there has been something nice about being involved in something that communally sucks. Like everybody's frustrated at the same time. So at least you can look around and, it's not like you're like, oh my God, I'm having this horrible time. And everyone's like, life is great. Like, everyone's like, yeah, I know. Right. Like that's been a lot easier to kind of have that community feeling as opposed to kind of just being, cause when you're in your own rough situation, that I feel like is a lot worse.
Well, if you're isolated and you feel alone and that, it's to have camaraderie and to have buddies going through it with you does lighten the load a little bit. I feel the same as a chamber exec, running the chamber. It was a really hard time during COVID. But knowing that every other chamber and having resources to connect with them, that we were all struggling in similar ways, not exactly the same. Everybody's community is different and the way we serve our communities can vary. But to know that other people were going through it together, and that we can meet up on Zoom and have a cocktail together made it a little bit easier. So I can connect with that statement for sure. So you mentioned the wholesaling. Anything else that's coming up next for Little Cakes that you want to share?
I mean, wholesaling is very general, but it's really cool. We're involved with these cloud kitchens, which is basically like it's one location and our product is there. And then anyone in the region that uses like any third-party delivery, Grubhub, DoorDash, they can order our stuff. So like we have one in Hollywood right now that we had put in a while back. And we just expanded to a lot of different, there's going to be like one in Long Beach, one in Santa Monica, one in Anaheim, like right near Disneyland.
Perfect.
So if you're going to Disneyland and you want some little cakes, you can order those up via like DoorDash. And then we've got 2 down in San Diego. So that's been really great. And then they handle, the staffing. So from our perspective, it's like we just need to make the product.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been focusing more and more on that. But no, we've started doing more and more in the retail spot in Vista. People have been asking more and more for minis and packs of things that are ready to go. And so we've been, fighting to keep up with it. But yeah, I mean, last year in Vista was one of the best years we've had. I mean, it's been really, really good. So it's exciting to be a part of, weddings and events, like as things come back and as people want to do things, individual servings turned out to be a really good thing too. It wasn't anything obviously we planned, but yeah, so, the wholesaling aspect, we are actually working with someone, cross our fingers to potentially ship nationwide.
That would be cool.
Yeah. I mean, and that obviously just opens things up. And there's been so many people families coming through like Camp Pendleton, who are like, when are you coming to North Carolina? And it's like,
I would love to ship Little Cakes to my family back in Texas or, we've all watched you. I mean, we all watched on Little Cakes. I mean, on Cupcake Wars when Little Cakes was on, and I got my family to watch and everything. So they're part of your story too, and they would love to. I'm sure they'd love it if I could ship some cupcakes to them. Yeah,
and it's something we've been thinking about for so long. But that is another thing. Is it's kind of like when you do take on something really big and you spread yourself so thin, it can be difficult to do anything. Focus on anything so diligently. So we're excited to be able to focus on that, keep up with the demand, but also figure out the logistics of making it happen. So, I mean, that's super exciting. And then, just getting them, if there is anyone listening who, restaurants or different locations, we're potentially looking at possibly starting up in some farmers markets. But it's exciting to just kind of get back to focusing mostly just on cupcakes. So that's exciting. And then also doing more cakes, like a full-size cake in our Vista shop. Another thing that people have been asking for that we kind of haven't been able to keep up with. So yeah, I mean, it's been really great. And it's like we've kind of picked up all these little nuances from all the different things and places we've gone, but now it's kind of all coming back together. And again, it's all kind of coming back home to Vista, which is great.
Well, I love that. I have to tell you, so both my kids, my daughter was born in 2009, so just before you opened the Little Cakes. And every birthday, my kids have had Little Cakes for every single birthday for both of them. And so it's a tradition that continues. So I'm glad that that you're sticking in Vista. You're not going anywhere, so we can continue our celebrations. So I have to ask you, well, first of all, do you still eat cupcakes?
I do.
My aunt and uncle own a bakery, and they don't really eat their cakes very often. So I have to ask you if you do.
I do.
Do you have a favorite flavor?
I do. One of the funny things too, my son wanted a cake for his birthday, and was like, "Well, what do you want?" And he was like, "A strawberry Duncan Hines with the strawberry frosting out of the can." So I mean, we do that too. Like
yeah,
it was just I thought that was amazing. But no, I mean, some of my favorites are honestly vegan chocolate. Right out of the oven, no frosting is like the best. And if you ask my staff, like they'll be like, "Wait, where did?" And I'll be like, "I had to grab one of those." It's amazing. And then the tamale de elote is one of my favorites. And then the one we do like that where we throw the roasted ancho chilies in there. That one's really good too. Those are probably my favorites. Yeah.
I am a fan of all the lemon varieties that you have. You have one that's like lemon and with a white chocolate kind of like.
Yeah, the white chocolate lemon.
Yeah, I love that one. So good. And then also the pearl is a big hit in our family. The chocolate peanut butter tuxedo and the red velvet. Those are all staples in our house.
Yeah, the red velvet, I mean.
It's so good.
For whatever
How
reason.
Is it so good?
For whatever reason, cupcakes and red velvet like just connected somewhere culturally and it's just been a thing. And it is the recipe from the Yellow Leaf. So I got to give credit to them, but it's one of those two where it's like, I'll be like, I mean, we have to make it. It's definitely the best seller. But Pearl is very close. But yeah, I remember every once in a while I'll be like, sampling this or sampling that, or literally just saying, I don't know about that batter. And I'll grab a red velvet and I will be like, oh my God, like it is really good. Like I'll just kind of forget about it and then do it. It has a lot of fat in it.
Well, that's probably why I like it the most.
Yeah, I mean,
I love that one.
I mean, yeah, there is that factor of it, but yeah, I think it's cool because it's like chocolate. It's a little more subtle than chocolate. It's different. Ours is different. Some places will kind of just take a chocolate and throw some red in there, but ours is an actual like traditional Southern recipe. But yeah, it's one of my it's one of my like ones that I kind of want to fight against it for some reason, but I can't fight it. It's really good.
So there's a big debate in my home about the proper way to eat a cupcake.
Right.
So there's the way where you just take the cupcake and you just bite into it.
That's the right way.
Okay. So you're already okay.
Now tell me the other way.
Well, there's two other ways.
Oh, okay.
Okay. The other way is lick all the frosting off and then eat the cake.
That's the right way.
Okay. And then there's another way, which is where you tear the cupcake in half and put the bottom on top to make a little cupcake sandwich with the frosting in the middle.
Yep. And that's the right way.
Okay.
So
you're not going to give me an answer.
No, because it's, for each of those, I'm sure there's someone that said this is the right way.
Right.
So it's the way you want to do it. For me, it is like a lot of times I will honestly shake the frosting off and eat it because I kind of just want the cake. But on like our grand opening, one of the first days, someone took one and said, "Let me show you how to eat a cupcake." And he pulled the bottom off and he sandwiched it together and he ate it. And that was the first time I'd seen someone do that. And I know a friend of mine who does that, who's very like technical and clinical. And he was like, you gotta, do that. And then he was excited about that because then you can get all the elements in one bite. So some people think that's the right way.
Okay.
I'm just excited. Like when we did strawberry shortcake was one of the ones that was like kind of the perfect example of the reason I thought these were good is that you don't just taste like the frosting or this or that. Like the lighter frosting kind of contributes to you being able to do everything. I love strawberry shortcake, but I feel like I'm always I get a little cake or I get a little strawberry or I get a little whipped cream and it's really hard. You're kind of like, you kind of got to throw it all in your mouth and then chew it. It's hard to get the right ratio of everything. But with ours, like what I like about it is, and we think about it is how much frosting is on it and where the bite is, like our lemon is like, if it's a curd, we spread it across the top. So you only get a little bit. But if when we were going to do one that was like filled with something, it had to be like more subtle because you wouldn't want to bite into like all this curd. So we are always thinking about the ratio of what you're getting and how it's going to blend together with everything else. So you don't have to do the sandwich thing, but the sandwich thing does work. But yeah, the answer to your question is whatever way they want to do it is the right way.
Okay. I mix it up. It depends on the type of cupcake. I feel like a filled cupcake, you can't pull the bottom off because then stuff's going to goop out.
Yeah.
So it depends.
That's true.
So,
That's true.
I don't ever lick the frosting off and then eat the cake, but the other two methods, I'm equal opportunity for those two.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else you want to say about Little Cakes or about your experience in Vista that we haven't already talked about?
I mean, I can't reiterate it enough, and it's funny because like I said, I've been involved with like the business association, and you know, I've been involved with the chamber and done all these different things, and I feel like sometimes people are like, "Oh, you're just advocating because you know you feel like you need to or you should."
I didn't pay you.
No, it really did feel that way, and it really did. It was literally when I like to say I was just a guy walking around talking about it. And everyone not only took me seriously, but was just like, well, let me help you. What can we do? Mm-hmm. What can we do? How can we make this happen? And I feel like I keep hearing that from people, you know, that idea. And the facade improvement program, mm-hmm. Is that still available? Is that still a thing?
Don't know, but I'm going to find out immediately.
But I got to say, I mean, if that's still available, I mean, that was amazing. Here we are opening our business and 50% of our sign was paid for, mm-hmm. you know, through a city grant, you know, the current economic grant that you guys sustained. I mean, it's just like on and on and on. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of places, a lot of cities will say they do what they can, and then they don't, or it's just, you know, but it's hard to compete because of the idea that we want you here and we're going to help you figure out what to do. And just having the community of makers and different people doing things. I mean, it's an awesome community. And so yeah, I mean, I just feel like no other city is really trying as hard. So, yeah, I don't know. And in a lot of ways, I just feel like a lot of times giving back to the community is just to help give back to the support that I was given. So
I love that. Okay. So at the end of the episode, I always ask a few rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So we're going to jump into those.
Okay.
So Don, tell me a book you think everyone should read.
So creative side, I've always been a fan of Catcher in the Rye. And then from like a business side, I'm working my way through Creativity Inc.
Okay.
By Ed Catmull, the guy who started Pixar. And it's amazing. It's amazing. And my philosophy of nobody knows what they're doing, which is everybody has different training or different things, but nobody like knows what they're doing. It was great to read at one point, he said, and we started Pixar and the main problem was nobody knew what they were doing. So it was great to feel justified.
Yeah.
In that book.
Okay. Tell me a song you always have to turn up. You always have to jam out to it.
Man, almost anything by this band J. Roddy Walston and the Business.
I have never heard of them.
And they have a really good song called "Take It As It Comes," which has been a good anthem for the last couple of years. But my wife and I went to see him at Belly Up. We had this sort of really intense thing we had to do in LA. That was like emotionally draining. Mm-hmm. And then we drove back and then we were going to go to this concert and we were like, should we even do that? It almost felt disrespectful to go have a good time, but we were like, let's push through, go down there and do it. And it was this like cathartic experience combined with just having just a really good live band. So anytime I hear it, you know, it's like whenever you have those connections with music. So yeah, anytime I hear that now, I kind of think of that. But it's a great band.
It's amazing how music can connect us to a time and a place and a feeling instantly.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of stuff we play at the shop that automatically makes me think of, you know, back in the day, baking stuff, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's awesome. I love music.
Great. Okay. Tell me something that inspires you.
My wife. My wife's work ethic. And just her in general. I I tell her, I'm trying hard to be the man she deserves. So yeah. I mean, in everything, being a mom, being her work. Yeah. So yeah.
Great. As a wife, I approve that message. Okay. Tell me a Vista business that you think deserves a shout out.
Man, there's a lot of them. I mean, a lot of what I like about Vista is local beer and local pizza. So I may have to do two.
Okay.
I'll
allow it.
One of the oldest and one of the newest. There's Lamppost, which is right across from us, which just does a really good job and is just has been a place of solace, doing a lot of stuff, having that place across the street, but also Best Pizza and Brew has quickly become a big favorite at the Hein house. We just had a work party there the other day, and it's fantastic. I mean, I liked what the Flying Pig did in there, and seeing some of that stuff gone was a little sad, but just what they've created and what they offer is great. It's really good.
Awesome. Great examples. Don, I want to thank you so much for being here. Such a great time talking with you, and I feel like we've known each other for so long that I heard so many new things today that I never knew about you. So thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. This was awesome.
Thank you for tuning into Velocity, the Vista Chamber podcast, where we hear from the movers, shakers, and change makers impacting Vista, California. To hear the latest from Velocity, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. The Vista Chamber of Commerce is a nonprofit organization which serves as a catalyst to business growth. Visit us online at vistachamber.org.